Oh hey, are you a crafter, aka hoarder, who has more paint than you know what to do with? Then you're gonna enjoy my ideas too. Use it up. I can't believe that didn't all fall. Okay, welcome back to Laugh Cry DIY. This is the channel where I show you fun, cool, creative, budget-friendly ways to sass up your house, often with things you already have. And if you're like me, you are practically drowning in paint samples, half-opened cans, quarter-full cans, things that you don't want to donate, but you want to use up, but you don't know what to do with. But lucky for you, I do have some ideas of ways that you can reuse that paint to make things over, to upcycle, to add some fun personality and pizzazz to your house, especially if you are a color-loving maximalist like myself. So today we're gonna do a deep dive into a bunch of projects that either I've done before, things I want to do, things I think you should do, things that you can do if you're lazy, and hopefully these will all inspire you to use up the paint you have in your life. Why do I keep grabbing this? It's all over my fingers. All right, let's go. First up, let's talk about painting small furniture pieces. I am a big fan of adding a little pop of personality or color via furniture pieces in a room, especially if you can't paint. And painting furniture is one of my favorite things to do. And I would guess that there is probably an item of furniture in your house right now that you could probably do a little fun makeover to. And here are examples of what that might look like. I am a huge fan of painting kind of boho designs on items using stencils or even freehanding it. This is a really good way to use up one color specifically. I also did a similar design on a coffee table, which again is really easy to do whether or not you have a stencil. I'm also personally a big fan of adding color and pattern to things. So in the past, I also painted this simple little side table that I got for free. Even if you add a subtle pattern, it does add a lot more personality and fun. Now, if you don't feel like you're that creative to paint a freehand design or something like that, I'm a big fan of stripes or checkers where you just have to tape things off using painter's tape. For example, I made over this old water station stand as a plant stand and just did a simple black and white stripe pattern all over it. Similarly, I also took a really old beat up bench and I gave it a makeover with a really simple two-tone checker pattern just to add a little more personality to an outdoor space. So whether you did a little side table or a little hallway bench, or even an outdoor bench like this one from Joyful Daisy, I really love this blue and white stripe pattern in the garden. It's very low effort, but very high impact. That said, I understand that you might feel lazy or overwhelmed, or you don't want to paint a whole piece of furniture, in which case, one of the best, simplest, easiest hacks is to just paint the furniture legs. And you can do this either with existing legs or legs that you buy to add on later. It's very simple, but here's a few examples of how great this can look. For example, you can see here in this pink cabinet, which they have already painted, they added these little teal legs with a little gold detail. It's really, really subtle, but it does just add that much more color and personality to the space. You can also just do a paint dip technique on the bottom of things like stools or plant stands. You could do a solid dipped color. You could do a cute little pattern like these stripes, or you could do something like this little gradient ombre, which is also really cute and unexpected. Here's another example of a simple little color dip on this little side table. Again, it's very easy to do, but very eye-catching. I also think that larger tables and desks are a really great opportunity to do this if you just do the legs. For example, I love how they did this little simple paint color wash on the legs of this workspace table, but they still kept the wood on top. And here's another great alternate version of this idea. I really love that they brought that up to just paint the little tabletop edge. That's a very subtle detail, but I think it looks really chic. Now, maybe you don't have any furniture you want to paint, but you still do want to make a big kind of like high impact moment in a room or even outside. In which case, I would say paint your doors. I've talked about this in other videos, but this is such an easy way to use up paint and to really make a kind of focal point or an interesting creative moment. For example, I absolutely adore this color blocked door. I really love that it has the two-tone colors and that they're slightly misaligned. It just looks really interesting and it makes the front door really pop. And I'm sorry to be a design channel that always says make it pop with color, but I have to say it because it's true. Of course, you can do a solid color or you can do a color blocked, or you can even do a fun pattern if you're feeling more artsy. Like I love this little sunburst on the bottom half of the door here. You can also see how many colors they used with the pink, orange, blue, yellow. This is also a great example of using up a bunch of different colors to make a space just feel that much more cheery. And of course, people always talk about painting the outsides of doors a fun, bold color, but also I love when they do the little inside of the door. You can see here we have this really cute, bold chartreuse paired with this little pop of orange on the inside. It's such a fun surprise, it's so unexpected, and it's a really great way to add color if you're someone who feels a little bit color phobic or like you don't want to totally commit. Just do your little door edges and then it can just be our little secret, you know? Why did I wink? Now, of course, painting a door can be very bold, painting an entire piece of furniture can be very bold, but you can also make a big impact by just painting simple trim on objects, whether that's crown molding or a window or something like that. For example, I really love seeing trim painted around windows. You can do a minimal little pattern or a fun little color, but it just adds an unexpected touch of whimsy that I really enjoy. And you can do any sort of pattern. This is a little hand-ticked moment, which I like because it's not quite so perfect, so it feels like a really nice handmade touch. Here's another great example of that. If you do a scallop trim or something like that, you can do that all around doors. You could do that as the border of an entire room. You could do it coming down from the ceiling. Personally, I really love patterns like that on the back of a door where you're gonna like leave the house. Again, it's just a fun little hit of dopamine like on your way out. And of course, don't forget your crown molding. I did a really dramatic, colorful bathroom makeover, and I made sure to paint all of the trim this really bright blue, just to kind of frame the whole canvas and add another fun accent color. I will say too that molding is just so often overlooked, and even just adding a really, really simple color like this can really have a much larger impact than you might realize. It's also just so much easier than painting a whole room. So if you're feeling stir crazy or you want a change in a space, just hit the molding. Now, that said, I understand not everybody wants to do a full door or trim, and not everybody can, especially if you're a renter. In which case, just look for little fun, subtle moments to add personality. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to change your outlet covers. Sometimes you want to paint these so that they don't stand out, but sometimes you might want to paint them so that they do. In which case, you can get wood or plastic paintable outlets for very cheap, like under $5. And I think they look so cute when you add a fun little pattern to them. You could do something like this fun, colorful checkerboard pattern. You could do something kind of cool and abstract like this black and white pattern. Or you don't even actually have to paint the outlet. If you're really artistic and handy, you could do something like this, which I think is so sweet. They just did this little hand-painted bouquet coming out of the outlet. It's very unexpected, and I just love little moments of surprises like that in your home. Now, similarly, another very popular thing to do, of course, is to paint picture frames. If you paint your picture frames, you can actually make them feel a little bit more cohesive if you have a bunch of disparate art. For example, I love how they painted each of these picture frames in a slightly different shade. It's a nice subtle variation, but it also makes it feel a little more cohesive. Of course, if you are someone like me who loves a lot of color and pattern, you can really go nuts. And again, this is a really great way to use up a lot of little paint samples if you have them, just like me. For example, you can paint patterns on the frames. You can also paint the color mats inside. You could do matching or contrasting shades. You could hand paint little patterns, but putting them together like this just adds such a fun, colorful, eclectic feel. You could also do a color dip style on maybe thrifted art or something like that. I thought this one was particularly interesting just because they did a bunch of different colors. Now, obviously we're talking about painting a bunch of different pieces of decor, but sometimes you can make functional items that much cuter by painting them as well. Which is why sometimes I think it's cool to paint rugs. And this is especially great if you have small little throw rugs, low pile rugs, maybe little like indoor-outdoor rugs, stuff like that. You can easily add a pattern to sass them up. And I think it's a cool way to give second life to something that might be dingy or just not your style or something like that. For example, you might paint a fun, cute, whimsical design on a throw rug. Something like this little playing card pattern is so cute. You could also do more simple or geometric shapes. Here are some great ideas from Bright Bazaar. I will actually link their tutorial below, but as you can see, these are very, very simple and very easy to do. Here's another cute example of painting a little welcome mat. Again, you can do so many different iterations. I will say the key here is to make sure that you have a very thin, low pile rug. It also really helps to combine your paint with fabric softener to help it seep into those fibers. And I will link some tutorials below, but I know painting a rug might feel a little bit too much. In which case, let's go back to smaller, simpler decor items, specifically painting trays. Maybe you have a tray, maybe you thrift a tray. There's always a million in the thrift stores, but I think that painting them is such a cute way to sass them up. For example, I love this cute little flower with the wavy design. It's really fun and sweet. And you can do this in so many colors and so many patterns. It's totally up to you. Also, if you have a tray, but you don't maybe totally want to commit to the pattern or you're not sure, you can also put contact paper over it and paint that. I actually did this on this channel to dupe a Jonathan Adler inspired tray. If you're not into it, or if you mess up, or if you want to change it, you can just peel it off and restart. You can also repurpose picture frames to use as trays. In a previous episode, I also did that. I just painted this cute little picture frame in a sweet little stripe pattern, and that can also be used to display or corral little items. That said, if you're gonna use them for food, don't paint them. You don't wanna ingest paint particles. But if you're using them for displays or for organizing or things like that, you can totally paint them and they look so cute. So yay for trays. Now, let's move on and let's talk about an often overlooked thing in the home decor world, and that is your lampshades. Painting your lampshades can add so much fun, so much personality, and painting either the base or specifically the lampshade is such an easy, budget-friendly way to add a little bit more fun. I did this myself on the channel. I thrifted a small, cute lamp, and I painted a really fun, colorful print all over it, which totally transformed the way it looked. Here's another great example from Fall for DIY, which I will also link below. They painted this cute little circular pattern. And again, I also really love that it is this hand-painted pattern. It makes it feel more sweet and intentional. Of course, if you're a very talented artistic person, you can do something kind of watercolor inspired if you water down the paints. And those can look really beautiful, especially these kind of floral style ones. But again, if you don't feel like that much of an artistic person, that's okay. In which case, I said it before, I'll say it again. Just do stripes. They're easy to paint, they're easy to tape off, they work with any style, and no matter where you put them, they just add a nice little hit of pattern. And again, you could paint the lampshade or you could just paint the base. You could do a pattern to one or the other or both, whatever, but very easy and very cute. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for our last tip today, let's talk about painting fabric. There are so many ways to paint fabric and turn it into decor, and here are some of the most popular. Number one, curtains. If you have simple plain curtains, you can do something like Mandy at A Beautiful Mess did, where she did these little hand-painted strokes on her curtains. This almost looks like a Dalmatian print, which I think is really sweet. You can also create your own little stamp, whether that's like a sponge or a piece of cardboard, and do a stamped pattern. For example, that's how they created this adorable little stamped floral pattern. And I will say I really like the two-tone color here. If you're using solid colored curtains, it's a cute idea to do a darker or lighter shade. Here's another example of stamped curtains. This is more of a geometric triangle, and I like that you get a variation of the stamps, so again, they're not all perfect. Also, if you're looking to fill a really big wall in your house with a large piece of art, or if you can't paint a wall, consider painting your own tapestry. Here's an example of what that might look like in a cool, just like black and white abstract shape. And a really budget-friendly way to do this is to just get a large canvas drop cloth from the hardware store and then paint on it however you like. Another thing you can do with fabric is you can do sun printing on napkins. Now, I've done this on the channel before with a non-toxic acrylic paint, but I will link that tutorial below if you're curious to see how I did this sun printing technique to create these napkins. And that, my dears, completes today's roundup of everything you can do to use up all those little dang paint samples that are haunting you. If you're looking for more inspiration, I did do another roundup of things you can paint, as well as some cheap and easy DIY makeovers, which often include paint. So you can check both of those below. If you like more tips and things like this, you can also sign up for my newsletter, which is linked below. I send out a monthly little roundup of DIY, decor inspiration, tips, and fun stuff that just makes your inbox that much more happy. And as always, if you guys have fun tips and tricks or ways that you have reused paint, please let me know, because my paint tower is growing and I think I'm going to be consumed by it. So please drop your comments below and you might just save my life. All right, till next time, bye.